Im heutigen Interview spreche ich mit niemandem Geringeren als Todd Whitaker. Todd Whitaker ist einer der renommiertesten Experten, wenn es um das Thema Schulleitung, Lehrkräfte und guten Unterricht geht. Er hat über 60 Bücher geschrieben, wovon ich 2 auf jeden Fall wärmstens empfehlen kann, nämlich einmal Classroom Management und What Great Teachers Do Differently. Ich persönlich schätze Todds sehr pragmatischen Umgang mit Problemen im schulischen Kontext. Und ich kann seine Bücher vor allem allen empfehlen, die konkrete Lösungen und Ideen haben möchten, was sie gleich morgen in dem Unterricht oder im schulischen Kontext anders machen können. In unserem Gespräch widmen wir uns im Wesentlichen 2 zentralen Fragen. Nämlich einmal der Frage, was machen großartige Lehrer anders? Und zum anderen der Frage, was können Schulleitung und Lehrkräfte konkret tun, um strategisch Schule zu einem besseren Ort zu machen? Ich persönlich habe das Gespräch sehr genossen, dabei viel gelernt. Und auch wenn Todd, in manchen Bereichen so ein bisschen andere Ansätze hat als wir Deutschen, bin ich sicher und sehr zuversichtlich, dass auch du ganz viel mitnehmen wirst. Ich habe das Interview auf Englisch geführt. Wenn du die Untertitel dazu wünschst, ist das kein Problem. Du kannst auf YouTube mit nur einem Klick die Untertitel aktivieren und so alles verstehen, worüber wir sprechen. Vergiss nicht, mir ein Like dazulassen, wenn dir das Interview gefallen hat, zu kommentieren, wenn du eine Frage oder eine Idee hast und abonniere gerne meinen Kanal, wenn dir dieses Video gefallen hat und du gerne mehr Videos in diesem Stil sehen würdest. Ja, viel mehr gibt es nicht zu sagen. Ich wünsche dir ganz viel Spaß beim Interview mit Todd Whitaker. Todd, it's a true honor to get the chance to talk to you today. I'm very, very happy and pleased that you agreed to have a conversation with me because I'm a huge fan of your work. I only had the chance to read 2 of your, what I just learned, 65 books. So your 65th book will come out tomorrow or the next days, which is amazing and insane. And one of the books that I read is one of your best-selling books, What Great Teachers Do Differently, which I loved and which I appreciated on so many levels because I learned so much from it. And I think it's safe to say that I'm not your only fan. You are a distinguished figure in education. You are a best-selling author. As I said, you wrote over 65 books. You are an educational consultant. You work with schools or work with schools and school districts. You try to enhance school leaderships and help schools at the spot where they need the help or need input. You're also a speaker, so you inspire people by sharing your knowledge in keynotes, etc. And last but not least, you're a former teacher and a former principal. So you actually know what you're talking about. You know what schools look like from different angles. And you have lots of experience. And I think this is something that, people realize when they dive into your work. And right now you're also working as a professor of educational leadership at the University of Missouri. So you're also working in teacher training or with students, which is also amazing. And I think such an important part of educating teachers. And it's just, it's amazing what you do. I appreciate your work because it's very pragmatic, very concrete. Everything that you say in your books is something that I can implement in my classroom the next day. And I think there's not much that is as motivating as that. And there are many things that I learned from you that I already implemented in my classroom, and I could see right away what a big and positive impact it had on my working day and also the work of my students. Yeah, so far for the intro. Did I miss anything, or did I not stress anything or something enough? Would you like to add something, or how would you introduce yourself?
Well, I would say that the introduction is better than I am. So just keep that in mind if you're there. And for those of you who may or may not be familiar with Emily yet, she is a shining star in education and has already had such an incredible impact. And she's somebody that I hope just remembers us little people as she continues to climb up the education terrain. She's really a gifted, highly intelligent person. And so it's a pleasure for me to have an opportunity to take some of your time and join you. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would like to, for the first question, and this is something that I'm really interested about, where did it all start? So what was your life as a teacher like, and how did it develop into something so big or something so knowledgeable or yeah, the person you are today, what do you remember of your own time being a teacher at school?
Um, well, it's really kind of funny. I was a terrible student. And I'm really not kidding. I mean, terrible. Well, I always tell the joke that one time I brought a grade card home. My dad was mad, and my dad goes, "Todd, all of your grades are horrible." And I said, "Dad, they're not all horrible. I got a B in reading." And he goes, "That's a D, you idiot." So anyhow, um, and I was really just somebody who was in trouble all the time, and somebody who caused trouble all the time, and somebody who thinks they're funnier than they actually are. And so but one of the things that happened, and it's really funny, it was a reflection later on. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college, get a college degree. And one of the things that happened that kind of is this book is that all through kindergarten is our first age, all kindergarten through my doctoral program, I probably had three people that could inspire me, get me to behave when it was, in younger things or even graduate school, to be honest. Maybe three people. And it really is, what did they do differently?
Mm-hmm.
And then I became a teacher. I actually quit law school and became a teacher because I wanted to have more of a positive impact. And a basketball coach. And that's kind of where it started. And then I realized that I love trying to make a difference, whether you do or not, is somebody else has to make that decision, trying to make a difference. So I became a principal and had the good fortune then in my third school, my second and third school, for whatever weird reason, I had visitors from all over the world come and visit the school. And we were doing things that I thought in 2 years everybody in the world would be doing. And most of them, no one in the world has ever done them since then, which I don't even get because I'm showing them how. Um, and they'd come to my school and then want myself and some of my teachers to come to their school. And that's where that came. And I had a superintendent who would let me do anything, but I felt guilty leaving my assistant principals to have to do things because I'm gone all the time. And I think they liked me gone, but uh, that I felt guilty. So then I got a job at Indiana State University, and the higher education gives you a lot more flexibility to travel and to present. And so that's kind of where that came from.
Amazing. Yeah, very interesting to see, like, to get a sense of what the journey is like and where to start, where it started and where you're at right now. And you said that in your own time at school, there were two or three teachers who did things differently. And this is something that is very striking. And also that something that I learned from you that also adds to that, because one of the things in one of your first chapters in this book, What Great Teachers Do Differently, you say that it's people, not programs, that make a school great. And I think that is something that really resonated with me and that made a lot of sense. And it was eye-opening to me. Because I think it's not so much the equipment or the structure of the school, or which is also important for learning. But in the end, it's the people, the teachers who are in the classroom with the children who are actually having an impact and who are actually making a difference. Can you, yeah, maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Because this is something that I think is very, very important for educators and also very appreciative of the work of teachers every day.
Yeah, the thing is, we can't mandate effectiveness. You just can't. I can't just say, Emily, you need to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way because think of just classroom management. People do the best they know how because classroom management is selfish. If any of us could get our students to behave better, we'd get our students to behave better. Nobody holds back on that. And what I've learned is that we do so much telling in education. Well, look how much easier it is for me to mandate a program than it is to help you improve. But the problem is the program can't help you improve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the cycle we're in. We mandate assertive discipline, and then the three ineffective teachers can't do it, so we outlaw effective discipline, and we still have the three ineffective teachers. So then we mandate flexible seating. Well, the three ineffective teachers can't do flexible seating either, so we outlaw flexible seating. So we mandate, and it just goes on forever because that's so much easier. And that's how come my first book actually was called Dealing with Difficult Teachers because
Mm-hmm.
I was a middle school principal, and you cannot hide an ineffective teacher at a middle school because every day the kids are on the hunt for weakness. And what's really funny is I was very blessed. I became principal of a school that was really struggling. And at the end of my first year, my 5 worst teachers were gone. I didn't document any of them. They just left on their own because we were improving, and that made them scared. And I thought everybody could do this. I thought everybody could do this. I don't like to document because then I'm working, and I'd rather the people that aren't working work. And and then when you have that happen and you hire exceptional people, your school improves so rapidly, it's just incredible. And then what happens is the people that are not moving forward are the ones that feel lonely. Instead, many times it's the people that are taking chances, that are doing the best, that are pushing the culture forward. They're the ones that are the targets. And in my school, I never want the good people to be the target. I always want the people that are not doing the right thing to be the uncomfortable ones. And what's funny is I thought when I wrote Dealing with Difficult Teachers, I'd get pushback. I'd hear from people about attack on teachers. Never heard a thing. Do you know what person in a school most would like something done with the difficult teachers?
The good teachers?
Yep. Because you're tired of them ruining your school.
Mm.
And plus, you don't want you don't want other kids to have a teacher like that in your school because you care about the kids. Even if they're kids you don't necessarily know because, they're not your students. You didn't get an education to have somebody else be that way with students. And it's just no fun. And plus, you have people that suck the life out of the school, that complain all the time. And our jobs are hard on our best days. They're really almost unacceptable on our worst days.
Mm.
And that's where that came from. And I realized everybody good wants the same thing. And almost everyone in education is good. Not quite, but almost everybody in education is good. And we all want the same thing. And it's
what is
just
that?
helping them understand that. But pardon?
What is that? What would you say the good teachers want?
They want the students to be treated with respect and dignity every single day. They want to be treated with respect and dignity every single day. It's funny, I mentioned a book I just finished yesterday and sent it in. And one of the things I talked about was how we hear hire good people and get out of their way. That's in all, somebody really famous in business started that. My goal is to hire good people and get out of their way. The good people don't want you out of their way. They want you supporting their way, guarding the way, leading the way, lighting the way, valuing the way. If an angry parent comes in to see you, you don't want the administrator getting out of the way. You want the administrator getting in the way. But see, if I'm no good, I'd like to say I hire good people and get out of the way, because then that means I don't do anything. And the only people that want the principal to get out of the way are either crummy people who have a good principal or good people who have a crummy principal. They want the principal out of the way.
So would you say that what makes teachers better at their job depends on the leader?
It's a factor, but it depends more on them, luckily. Because if it depends on the leader, then there's no great teachers in a crummy principal school. And if it depends on the leader, then there can't be crummy teachers in a great principal school. But there are less effective teachers in both schools, and there are highly effective teachers in both schools. No, it depends on the teacher's actions. But it's a lot easier to sustain. Teaching's hard. It's really hard. And it takes an energy. You have to dig in at times to get your energy. And if the principal's no good, they not only suck the life out of you, so do the ineffective people in your school. But I have something called a best teacher, worst teacher test. And when I talk about dealing with difficult teachers, as a principal, I always treated the worst teachers as if the best teachers were in the room watching. Because the best teachers want me to deal with them. They just want me to deal with them in a professional, respectful manner. And I've learned what I learned to do as a principal. I'm not smart. What I learned to do as a principal is I treat the teachers like the best teachers treat the students. Because think about this, even now as an adult and an effective teacher like you are, would you still like to be in an environment where people say please and thank you?
Of course.
Is it still nice when people refer to each other as ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, sure.
Is it still nice when people smile, welcome, and greet you?
Yeah.
Why would I not do that as a principal? But I don't even have to think of it. I just watch my best teachers and they do it all the time. Average people do it some of the time, and ineffective people do it infrequently. Let's just put it that way.
And you said that good teachers, they is it something they just have in themselves, would you say? So they start working and they are just passionate about what they do. They're enthusiastic. They really care about the children. Or what is it in them that makes them great at their job?
Um, I think this can be taught, but I also try to hire people that have that already because then, I can just continue to stroke and take them forward versus starting from scratch. I do a lot of stuff with hiring because I always say, would you rather put effort into hiring or effort once they're hired? And I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather put effort into hiring and get exceptionally talented people. I think people, all professions, this is not about teachers. I think people, let's just say it's a 1 to 10 scale. I think everybody you hire has a range. And so I could hire somebody whose range is a 2 if they're not motivated and a 5 if they are motivated. I could hire somebody who's a 4 if they're motivated and an 8, I mean, if they're not motivated, and an 8 if they're not motivated. I could hire somebody who's a 7 if they're not motivated and a 10 if they are motivated. Well, I want to hire up here. And then my job is to get people up here and then get them to the top of the range of which they can be in terms of talent. So I don't think it's one or the other. But when I think it's stuff like classroom management, I think you can teach people how to be highly effective.
Mm-hmm.
I really think you can teach them because there's not pushback. It's the same way if you have children yourself or were a child, but if you have children yourself, if I could teach you how to get your kids to behave better, you would get your kids to behave better because it benefits you. And that doesn't mean you don't love your kids and all this kind of stuff. But if you could get your kids to behave better, you would get your kids to behave better. I'm confident I can teach you how to do that. Well, in the classroom, it's the same way, but the difference is you try it because, especially if you're struggling, because it's no fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
no fun to go to work if you can't get the kids to do what it is you want them to do. And when you start to teach people things like that, I think one other thing that I need from every teacher, or else we don't have a chance of improving them, is I always need teachers to do 2 things every day. And those 2 things are care and try.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you care and try every day and you're a 3, I can make you a 7.
Mm-hmm.
If you care and try every day and you're a 7, I can get you to 9. If you don't care and try, you're always going to be at the bottom of your talent range. You're going to be right here. So wherever I get you, that's it. And the best teachers care and try every day. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons it's hard because it does take a lot of energy. But I think it's also to understand it takes a lot of energy even if you're no good because you're battling stuff all the time. And I'd rather put your energy I'd rather use your superpowers for good than evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of that.
Yeah, caring and trying every day is, I think, very, very crucial and very good. Like you phrase that in a very good way that we understand, and every teacher knows what it means, I think.
Yeah.
But still, at the same time, I mean, as the year passes by, we start in like highly motivated, say, first 2 months, and then motivation drops for students, but also, let's be honest, for teachers. Is
Right.
there anything that teachers themselves can do in order to stay motivated, do you think? Or is there something that leaders can do in order to motivate teachers to really, because this is also something that you wrote in your book, which I really, which I took very, or which I think is very important, to keep staying at your best, try your
Right.
best every day. But this
Right.
can get hard at some point throughout the year. So is
Right.
there anything that motivational advice that teachers can do, leaders can do?
Well, do you have certain people, and it could be relatives, family members, it could be friends, neighbors, and your coworkers. Do you have certain people that when you're with them, your mood rounds up? And do you
Mm-hmm.
have other people that when you're with them, your mood rounds down? Okay. Who chooses to be with them? Who is it that chooses to be with the people you're with?
I do myself.
Okay. And you have certain people that you're thinking, I better not be around her. This is just, I don't even have any tolerance. I'm already pushing the floor of my of my moods. Well, that's your decision. And the thing that's really hardest for exceptional people, they have very few exceptional colleagues. And the other thing that's hard about being exceptional, average people don't want you to be exceptional because it makes them bad. They try to pull you down all the time. I didn't say ineffective. I said average people try to pull you down all the time. I'm guessing when you were early teenager, you had people that were your friends. Okay. And for some of them, they were friends, and some of them, they were air quote friends. Have
Mhm.
you ever had, and you may still have some of those friends now that you didn't know at 13, but you know now. Do you have any friends that when you're out somewhere and they're going, "Oh, are you going to wear that?" Are they on your side?
Mm, I think so, yeah. I mean, if they're honest.
Okay. If you're already out and you're
Ah,
walking into the event
okay.
and they go, "Oh, do you feel comfortable wearing that? Oh, it must be awkward having that on now." Because guess what? They know there's nothing you can do.
Mhm.
And they'd rather, I mean, do you know any people like that?
Mm, I think I got rid of those kind of people already in my life,
But you
but
could probably
I should,
you could
yeah,
rattle some names. Do you have any people at
definitely,
school do you have any people that are coworkers that potentially do that some of the time when they're in a bad mood?
definitely, yes.
Yes. So as an individual, you choose who to interact with. And as a
Mm,
leader, I choose to continually stroke value and recognize my best people. And I also do it with my challenging people until I realize it doesn't work.
mhm.
But understand there's a sincerity in what I do. There truly is. I'm just letting you see how the sausage is made. But I'm a very sincere person. But just think, Emily, if I'm out somewhere and you and I know each other from something, and I go, "Hey, Emily, how is my favorite person in the world doing?" How do you feel?
Good.
Good, don't you? And
Feels
then
nice,
Alexa,
yeah.
and then you and I are standing there talking and having a good time and this, and Alexa comes walking up and I go, "Hey, Alexa, how's my favorite person in the world doing?" How you feeling now, Emily?
Mm, not as valuable as before, probably.
Hey, Brittany, how's my favorite person in the world doing? Hey, you know what happens? Now, all of a sudden, I'm actually demotivating you.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm demotivating Alexa because Brittany came up. Because she didn't know I said that to you. But just think if I go, "Hey, Emily, how's my favorite person in the world doing? You feel great." And Alexa comes up and I go, "Hey, Alexa, it is wonderful to see you." You didn't lose anything, did you?
Hmm.
Because you know what
And
you're
this,
thinking? He thinks I'm the favorite person in the world. And but that's how I treat people all the time. I have to be in their classrooms. I have to make them feel important. I value what they do. I stroke what they do. But in addition, Emily, when you have students that are, as the year goes along and we get more worn down, you have students that also tail off. And I don't mean just in ability. I mean their attitude, disposition, they well, I support you in that too. I work with those students. If you need to refer them to the office, if you want me to talk to them, there's a million ways to do it, and it just depends on who that teacher is. You're more likely potentially to have cross paths with parents at later in the year because they're tired of you, you're tired of them, the year, you're tired of the kid. What? And I don't mean like you're a sour, uh, nothing but sour, but just you do. Well, I work with them for you.
Mhm.
You know, I and so that's part of what I do as a leader. I don't know if mentioned this or not. One of the things I teach leaders, but I'm not an event guy. I'm more of a drumbeat. Versus just an event. But one thing I teach leaders to do is this: go into the best teacher's classroom when they need it, not when you need it, when they need it. But sometimes both of us need it the same day because you've ever had a Tuesday that was the longest month of the year. I mean, you can have things that seem. And I go into Emily's classroom and I leave this note. Emily, I'm the principal, and I leave this note. Emily, I was sitting down in the office and I forgot what school was. And I wanted to come into your classroom so that I could remember what school was.
Oh, my.
Thanks for being here for the students. And thanks for being here for me. Emily, are you ever going to forget that?
No.
There's a chance you've never received a note that nice in your life and you married someone. I mean, so keep that in mind in terms of this. But do you see that's the kind of thing you do? And I don't write that note for 50 teachers, Emily, because it means nothing then. But that doesn't mean I don't work to compliment people for different specific things. But like the note I just shared, I'm sharing it for my best teacher. I'm sharing it, and I don't mean one where Emily's number one and now this person's number two, but I'm talking about I don't treat people the same because they're not the same. I don't treat them the same in importance because they're not the same as in importance. They are not. And I don't mean publicly. I don't even give Teacher of the Year because I think Teacher of the Year at best means Teacher of the Year who hasn't won Teacher of the Year yet. And I don't want my faculty to ever feel like, and Emily, I'm only picking on you because you're the only person I have to pick on here. So keep that in mind. I don't want anyone to think, oh, look at Emily, Miss Kiss Butt at the top of the wagon, because they're going to try to take you off that wagon. And I don't have Teacher of the Year because, and four runners up, because the four runners up are high achievers who now feel like they've lost instead of feeling special. So individually, I make you feel special. You know, I like to say in a great teacher's classroom, every student thinks they're the favorite. And I promise they're not, but every student thinks they're the favorite. Well, in my school, I try to help all of my teachers think they're really important, really significant, and really valuable to me until they stop caring and trying. And I don't mean one day, you know, all of us are off our games at different times, but you know what I'm talking about. You have people, I'm sure, if you do either have or have had before, that don't care and try every day. And if I don't do something about them, do you see how that sucks the life out of you too? Why am I trying when I get treated exactly the same as everybody else? I'm not going to treat you like everybody else, but I might do more of it privately than publicly. I don't read that note at the faculty meeting because then people will hate you and want to key your car in the parking lot. I give you that note individually. You know, I say things to you individually. And I also do whole faculty things about how amazing my faculty is, how proud I am of the staff. What you do in May is incredible. I don't know how you do it, but that's why the kids like coming here to school so much. And that's why I like coming here to school so much. You see, that's the kind of thing I'm always doing. But in addition, I work with you individually too.
Yeah.
Because it is, you know, it's like if a mother has three children, at times they talk to all three children about special and good things, and at times they talk to individual children too, because the kids aren't the same. But yet you also want to help them all rise up, not just the one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Makes a lot of sense. I often get a lot of questions, especially from young teachers who just either started their teacher training or just started working as a teacher full time. And many of those questions revolve around rules, establishing rules in the classroom. What kind of rules do I establish? How do I get my students to stick to the rules? What possible consequences should I establish in order for them to stick to the rules? So it's a big topic. I think it's an important topic. What do you have to say about that? Are there specific kind of rules? Which consequences make sense? Or is it something else that we teachers have to keep in mind?
One of the things I think that is most cautious about rules is you're going to have to enforce them. So if I have something I don't want to enforce, I cannot make it as a rule. I just cannot have that. And maybe a way to think of it is expectations versus rules. And the other thing to keep in mind is consequences actually have more power when people don't know what they are. Fear of the unknown is much more powerful than fear of the known. I'll give you an example. And I do not know this. I know you're in Germany. In Germany, is the Autobahn in Germany? Where's the Autobahn?
Yeah.
Oh, look at me. This is unbelievable. Anyhow, do you have roads? It may not be the Autobahn because I think you go fast on it. Do you have roads that have speed limits?
Yeah, sure we do.
And do you have construction zones that sometimes, you know, there's workers, so the speed limit's lower?
Yeah.
Okay. We have them in the States too. And I travel around the world, a lot of countries have them. And sometimes they'll post the fine for speeding in a construction zone. There'll be a big sign posting fine. Okay. Now, did you say in general, if you see a construction zone, you slow down?
I personally do, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And if you see workers, do you slow down even more?
Yeah.
Okay. And there doesn't even need to be a sign if you see worker and, you know, like speed limit 40 kilometers. I don't know how to convert, and I don't know, 40 kilometers may be fast. I don't even know. So anyhow, if you see workers, you just slow down, don't you? You didn't need the sign. And guess who they put the sign up there for? Me. They put it up for me. Because you know what I'm going to do? Whatever I want to do. And what I think's funny is they post fines, $300 or 200 euros or whatever this is. What's funny is when if there's a sign that has a $200 fine, 200 euro fine, guess what I do? I weigh it. I go, $200, let's go. And you know what I'm going to do? Get my $200 worth. If they don't post the fine, do you know what I do? I slow down. Because you know what? I don't know what's going to happen if I speed. There's a chance I'm going to go to prison, and I know what they do to poor boys in prison, and I can't afford that. And so it's that whole, do you see how the consequence actually takes the pressure off, even though we think the consequence increases the pressure? The biggest difference between and I can talk all about classroom management as much as we want with young people, people who are seasoned, who are skilled, whatever, it doesn't matter. The thing I most want people to think about is, do you know the biggest difference between more effective and less effective classroom managers isn't what they do when kids misbehave? It's what they do when kids behave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everything about effective people is about prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about ineffective people is about revenge. And the two biggest reasons students misbehave is because they either want attention or they want power. The two biggest reasons adults misbehave is because they either want attention or they want power. And you know when blowups happen in schools? When the teachers who want power cross paths with the students who want power, because we're both fighting for the same space.
Mm-hmm.
And the real key is managing yourself. Your consequences can be anything. Your rules can be anything. But if you're not going to enforce them, they're not even rules. And you can't enforce them today and not enforce them tomorrow. But I would rather have expectations like be respectful. Speak only when others are not speaking, some kind of things like that. Be on time, have supplies, whatever it is that you want there. And I was a principal for years, and my last school had 1,500 people, and I had expectations. I just didn't publish the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I would say any of these things could result in anything from calling parents, after school detention, suspension from school, because I'm going to always weigh where's the kid on in terms of just the food chain, not how important they are, but I mean, this is the 11th time you've done this versus this is the first time you've done this. This is the third time you've gotten in a fight versus it's the first time you've ever gotten in a fight in the history of the school. You're not off the hook because it's your first fight, but I feel no obligation to treat you exactly like I treat everybody else. And in my mind, I have consequences. But do you see how, because your life is driven by guilt, because most people who are excellent like you are, as life is driven by guilt, you don't need the consequence to slow down at the construction zone. And when you give me the consequence, I'm weighing it. A teacher who goes, Todd, yeah, you keep this up, you're going to get 2 detentions. Do you know what I'm thinking? Let me think. We have practice both days after school, but one day it's going to rain, so I think it'll be canceled. And the other day, there's already a pretty girl in detention, so let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But the unknown is, I never tell a teacher, if you do this, here's what's going to happen. Do you know what I tell a teacher who's doing something, treating students with disrespect? We don't do that in this school. We do not talk to people like that in this school.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned prevention, which I think is also a very, very important thing. How is it about, or I, as a teacher, can I prevent disturbances or, say, bad behavior from students by establishing a respectful classroom, by being friendly, by being encouraging, by giving them positive experiences? Or what is it that I can do in order to prevent
If there was only
one thing?
if there was only one thing, my book would have been a lot shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those things, but in addition, proximity, eye contact, moving around the room. If we talked about driving. I bet there's times you're driving down the highway and you see are they called patrolman, policeman? What do you call them in Germany?
Policeman.
Policeman. You see a policeman who's taking radar. Do you sometimes slow down, even if you're already even going below the speed limit?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's what proximity does.
Mm-hmm.
And your effective teachers use proximity all the time. Only it's an intentional proximity.
Mhm.
You know, I'm walking around the room, but coincidentally, I end up next to Emily at exactly the time that's probably most beneficial for me end up next to Emily.
Mhm.
Does that potentially cause you to alter the behavior that you're doing? Do you have other teachers in schools that are too stationary?
Mhm.
Well, as a principal, would it make a difference to my teachers if I'm in your rooms daily? And I don't mean every room every day if I have a large school, but would that make it? Do you think that causes some less effective people to be more active in the classroom,
Mhm.
to be softer in tone and manner? Do you think that also, though, impacts the kids who are most likely to be acting inappropriately in your classroom if I just come in there? See, it improves everybody. And so the same thing the best teachers do by using proximity, by being active, it's the same things the best leaders do. There's not a difference. There isn't a difference there. And it's not rude or disrespectful because the best teachers like it when I come in their room, and the worst teachers don't like it when I come in their room. So I go in everybody's room because good
Yeah.
people like it and bad people don't. It's the same way with proximity. Do you have a holiday that in maybe Christmas? I don't know if you have. Do you have other holidays that there seems to be kind of family gatherings? Like in the United States, they have Thanksgiving. That's a big one. Do you have holidays that there's big Thanksgiving gatherings?
Yes, I mean Christmas, Easter maybe.
Okay.
Families get together on Easter.
And do you have certain relatives that you like more than others?
I would agree. Yes.
Okay. And isn't it special when the relative you like, you get to sit next to them or you get to talk with them, even if it's not as long as you want, it's not as often as you want. Isn't it still special?
Yeah.
Do you see how the great teachers, Emily, when you have a teacher you really like and they're around you, it's attractive. It's appealing to you. Not only, but even that, even you self-correct, like the patrolman, you sit up straight, you make sure you're doing the right thing because you value them. And the kids that may not hold the teacher in as much regard still behave better when the teacher's by them. But
Hmm.
by me being with you, if you're a teacher pleaser, you like it. And the people that aren't teacher pleasers still behave. And I'm not worried if they like it or not. I'm worried if they behave. I'm worried if you like it because I don't want to do something that you find offensive if you're a teacher pleaser kid. And that's how come I
Yeah.
don't call on you 7 times in a row if you're like normal, because then you don't like it because you get ostracized in the classroom. And that's how come I don't give my best teacher teacher of the year at a public event. Other people do, and that's fine. I don't. I make you
Hmm.
feel like teacher of the year every day of the year.
Hmm. Um, Interesting. Also in connection to that, relationships. So student-teacher relationships. There is a big, and I think you do too from reading your books. Relationships are important. Um, for successful classrooms and good learning. On social media, there's this trend where I feel relationship, or where people tend to say relationship is everything. I mean, if you want your students to learn to be successful, to be educated in a good classroom, relationships are everything. Would you agree with that? Or what is your point of view on relationships?
Well, I just literally wrote a chapter in the book that I turned in yesterday called The Learning Relationship. That's the foundation. You know, I like to say it's a school year, it's not a dinner party. And if you want to have a dinner party that's successful, invite me because I'm really engaging for 90 minutes. I mean, for 90 minutes, it's the best dinner party you've ever had in your life. But my act gets old. I would say if I was single, my strength would be speed dating because for that first minute, it's a winner. But after 37 years, I literally have broken my wife's spirit to live. I mean, so understand that way. But everything in life is the same. A first date, somebody's fun and funny and engaging and energetic, that's very appealing. But you know what? By the fifth date, you already know my favorite movies. You already know what bands I like. You already know what my hobbies are. You already know. And you'd like to know more than that, wouldn't you? You'd like to have something deeper than that, wouldn't you?
Mhm.
It's the same way in a classroom. I can ask you how your puppy's doing, but at some point it becomes a dog. and potentially you don't even want to hear it because it's so repetitious.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with starting at that, but what it really is in classrooms is a learning relationship. You have
Mm-hmm.
that fabric connected of learning, and that's what it's all built around. If you have children, Emily, and you get to choose your teacher, your kid's teacher next year only by description, would you rather choose a teacher for your child that every day has engaging lessons, or choose a teacher for your child who once a month comes to their soccer game? Which of the two would you want for your child?
First one, engaging
Right.
lessons.
And you know what's amazing? If the teacher doesn't have engaging lessons, the kid may not even want them at their soccer game.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have engaging lessons, as the mom, you don't care if they come to the soccer game. And I'm not saying the soccer game doesn't matter. We've just gotten confused and we hear relationships, 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 and kind of after the pandemic, but the learning relationship is the lasting relationship in the school. Emily, as a principal, do you want somebody who says, "Hi, you sure look nice every day"? Or do you want somebody who supports you when they need to? Do you want somebody who makes you feel special? Do you want someone who deals with other people when they're not doing the right thing professionally as responsibility? Isn't that really the relationship you want?
Mm.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean the first time I don't meet you, I don't say hi.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean I don't say hi every time I meet you, but that would get old if that's the depth of that connection. You need so much more than that. And in schools, we need so much more than that. And that's what happens is the first day of school, lots of teachers say hi. And then a few teachers continue to build those relationships because of the connectivity and learning in which you gathered from them. And a few of the teachers never move beyond hi. And raising my children, it's always easier to say yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And I call it the short-term pleasure syndrome. It's always easier to say yes than no. But the problem is if you always say yes, it becomes impossible to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even
And
have
when
the ability to say no to themselves.
and when we talk about learning relationships, is one of the just to understand it a bit more, is learning relationship, does it mean that students understand that my main goal as their teacher is to help them to learn and to prosper and to grow? Is that part of that learning relationship?
I don't care what they understand. I just want them to learn and prosper and grow. Now, I could trick them into it. If somehow for 180 days I can trick you into learning, great. Did you, and I, in the States, we have this, this may not be true there. Did you, when you went to university or college, did you ever have classes that were large? Like in a large university in the United States, you might
Yeah.
have a class that has 150 people.
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
Did you ever have anyone and one instructor, maybe you had 20 people, but one instructor that was really, really good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there a chance they didn't know your name?
100%, yes.
Is there a chance they didn't know if you had a puppy?
Mm-hmm.
When you were done with that semester, did you kind of feel like you had a relationship with them?
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
guess
they
what
were
kind
they
of,
yeah, because they were inspirational people. So it's more about, yeah, being inspiring and encouraging and yeah, okay, I
and
see.
you know what you did? You learned.
Mm.
That's a learning relationship. Some of it could have been about how to deal with people. Some of it could be about chemistry. It could be geology. It could be whatever, it could be math. It could be whatever that subject is. And some of it is how we treat each other and how kind we are. It isn't it isn't every teacher does the same. We don't want every teacher to do the same thing because then you're you might as well just take first grade again forever. But do you see how there was learning? And then people go, I don't like large lectures. No, you just don't like that ineffective person doing the large lecture. And you wouldn't like that ineffective person if it was a class of 20. Think about it even on a bigger basis. Do you know who Taylor Swift is?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Everyone in the world knows, I guess.
exactly right. My son's actually met her. But anyhow, what's interesting is Taylor Swift. Do you think she does a good job that people, young girls and older girls and men too, I don't mean it just, I'm not trying to be biased about this. Doesn't she do a good job where you feel like she knows you?
Mm-hmm.
She knows my soul. She knows my feelings. She knows, and you've never met Taylor Swift, but you feel like you know her. And I don't necessarily mean that's a learning, but that's a relationship. And the best teachers establish that on multiple levels also. Even if you can't write a new album every 6 months and you can't sing on key, you still have that connection. And I think that that's the thing that teachers do. There's no reason you can't start the foundation by asking about a kid's puppy, but it's got to move beyond that. And other teachers, the very first day, you know what they do? They just start teaching highly effectively. You'd be amazed. I bet that large lecture you had, I bet they never did getting to know you activities. They just started teaching highly effectively, and they were really good at it. And you still remember them. It's still important, and it may be the best. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. It could be the best person, the best class you had at the university because of the learning involved. And so, and if we don't have it, the problem is 180 days is a long time.
Yeah.
A dinner party isn't. You don't have to know anything about me, and you're going to think that's the greatest guy in the world. Where is he? Whatever. At class, I have to have more than that. I'm still proud that I taught math. I'm still proud that I had students so many years ago. It's unbelievable. I don't know if y'all understand the years because I don't know what they are in metric, but I still have students that come up and go, I remember when you taught us this. I still use this. I had somebody who was my basketball manager when she was in 8th grade, who now is retired, who said, did you know when they were watching Caitlin Clark, who's the famous women's basketball player from Iowa, who's the greatest scorer in the history of NCAA basketball. She goes, did you know every basketball game I've ever had since 8th grade, I always keep score. I always keep track of assists and rebounds.
Oh, wow.
Because it made it, and now, I mean, she said the whole thing with Caitlin Clark, she does that, but she does it every game she goes to. And I realize that may or may not be valued, but I just meant that's a part of the learning relationship. That pulls her more into the game. It makes her more interested in what's taking place. And so that's part of the learning relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't know that.
Very interesting.
We all know the definitions of everything. So I can't provide you the definition because you already have your own definition anyhow. You know exactly what it is. And so does every person who's listening to this podcast or watching it. They know exactly what a learning relationship is. It's just ineffective people want it defined so that they can argue. But we
very interesting. I have to read your next book, I guess, because this is a very interesting topic to me. Because I always, for myself, also in my classroom, the most positive moments that I have in class with students is when I see that they are learning and when they themselves realize that they are learning. And I had this one situation last week actually with my English course, and we did some deep work on how to write a main thesis in an analysis. And I made them practice, and then I gave them back their exams. And with the practice in mind, we together took another look individually at the exams, and they corrected themselves because of the help of the practice that we had in advance. And it was like this, this aha moment. They were like, now I know, now it makes sense. And these moments are so striking and so important for the whole environment, for the atmosphere, and for, in the end, the learning relationship, I guess. Yeah.
And understand, because of your natural charisma and the kindness that oozes from you, there are going to be people who are more drawn to that, are students who feel more comfortable with it. And you know what else makes students feel comfortable? When they have someone who can explain things really well. When they have someone who can teach them how to do a math problem in a way they never thought of themselves. And they may never have asked about their puppy. The student comes in and couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. And I'm not diminishing the people who go through the puppies. I'm not belittling that. But if we don't move beyond that, it really isn't. It really isn't. You don't marry somebody because they're funny on the first date. And just think of the second date, they're selling you the same stories and the same jokes, and they want to talk about the same movies that they talked about, and they talk about at some point, you're just so disinterested. You don't even have a relationship with them. And it's the same way in the classroom. And think about a kindergartner or first grade, and I'm thinking of boys because it tends to be biased this way, but it doesn't have to be. You know, one of their highlights is when they came home and they talked about dinosaurs because the teacher talked about dinosaurs. And have you ever, do you know anyone who's ever turned in a paper, like, you know, you write an essay, you know, where you have some writing, you write an essay, and so the teacher writes back and says, I think you should be a writer. That's a learning relationship. But it touched your heart, didn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it touched your heart. And when, you know, if I come in my best teacher's classroom as a principal and I say, I wanted to come into your room because I forgot what school was. If you hate me, it doesn't mean anything. If I don't support you and I don't value you and I don't protect you as a teacher, me writing that note means nothing. I can't overcome the dynamic that we have by being nice. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying not to do that. But you see that you don't trust me enough to let that enter your heart. But if I just support you, organize the school, have things structured in a way that allows you to be effective, that's
Hmm.
all the opening I need.
Yeah, I see.
That's really what you want out of me.
Yeah.
You know that, and
So,
then if I do reach that emotional thing, yeah, I mean, you're going to be. I don't mean this in anything. This because I cry at everything. You're going to be crying when you get that note because you're open to me emotionally, and you thought he never does stuff like this, so it really means even more. Um, Even though the real relationship is that I organize the school, I make sure kids are supervised, I support teachers in terms of management, I communicate when assemblies are going to take place. You see what I mean? All of those things help our relationship, don't they?
yeah.
You've had lots of, we all have had lots of principals or know lots of principals that we wish if they could just be good managers, it would help the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Because it leaves room for all the positive or important encounters
Right,
for getting together. And I think the one quote that you had for the boy that got home, or where the teacher wrote beneath the essay, "You should become a writer." I think it's these small moments or communications between teacher and students, one on one or in writing, doesn't matter. I think that are stuck with the people. You know what I mean? This
right,
this sentence, this boy probably remembers for the rest of his life,
right.
and it's something that could spark something in him or do something for him for his future,
And
and
you
that's
want to know
truly
something?
amazing.
You want to know something amazing, Emily? That could have been the teacher doing that to you in the lecture with 150 people
Hmm.
because they didn't know you. They weren't doing it biased because you're a teacher pleaser. They're doing it because they thought your writing is exception. That's the learning relationship.
Mm. And it's also interesting now. Everything starts to make sense. It's also with um, not to be cheesy, but with people like you, for instance. I love listening to the things you say, and I feel like I have some. You're an inspiration for me personally for my life, and so, to some degree, I feel like I have a learning relationship with you as well. You know, even though you didn't know me for like one month ago. So it's also for people that maybe I haven't really met that I feel are inspirational, that have an impact on me. Um, and I have some sort of relationship to them, if that makes sense.
Sure. But I feel the same kind of connect. See, what I get from you is your enthusiasm, that you care, that you're extremely bright. And those people, you remember those people.
Mm,
You do. You remember those people. High achievers like to be around high achievers.
interesting. Very
Even if it's
interesting.
a high achiever who's doing something, even if it is an education connection. I used to coach basketball, and I have a couple of basketball coaches, like a collegiate level basketball coaches. I just bought season tickets on a team. I'm not even in the town because this person is truly a genius at everything. He's just applied it to basketball coaching. But if he was anything else, he would also be a genius. He'd be the
Mhm.
best salesman in any company that there is. He'd be the best, whatever it is, he architect, because there's a genius about him. And that's very attractive to me because it's fun to learn.
Yeah.
And every kid thinks it's fun to learn. Every adult thinks it's fun to learn. That has nothing to do with intelligence. Everybody thinks it's fun to learn.
Yeah. If you do it right.
Right. Huh. And if you
Mm.
do it wrong, they're not learning.
Mm. That's true.
And we can't learn from
Yeah,
bad
that's
role
true.
models. People say you can, they're just wrong. You can only learn from good role models. You can't learn from bad role models.
Yeah. Okay, Todd, we have to wrap up. But I have one last question.
Sure.
If since many young people or young teachers, as I said, follow me and have lots of questions, is there anything that in general that you would want to say to young educators out there? I don't know, everything from all the things that you know, or motivational wise, or about the job. What is it that young teachers should know or learn or hear from you?
There's two things. One of them is find really good people and connect with them. You
Mhm.
can't learn how to be great from average people because average people don't know how to be great. They're not keeping it a secret. They don't know how. You have to find exceptional people because average people potentially don't want you to succeed. I don't mean they just don't. They don't want you to succeed. Ineffective people, I guarantee, don't want you to succeed. But exceptional people always want you to succeed. The other thing is trust your gut. I really believe people in education and in the world, I have faith, their instincts are right. And if on the first day of school you get upset, or the first time, if you're a new teacher and the first time you get upset and you yell, you feel funny. You don't want to be, you didn't get an education to be the yeller. Everybody hates the yeller. And you feel funny that you yelled. And if you trust your gut, guess what you're not going to do tomorrow?
Yell.
Yell. You don't know what you're going to do yet, do you, Emily? But you know you're not going to yell.
Mhm.
If you ignore your gut, because see, the first time you yell, it sort of works. I don't mean this in relationship, but I mean it sort of works. If the students aren't used to you yelling and you yell, you're going to get their attention the first time. And it sort of works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I ignore my gut, guess what I'm going to be tempted to go to the next time I feel frustrated? Yeah.
Yell.
And it's not going to work quite as well. And it's not going to help with relationships, but it may still sort of work. And the third time, it's going to work with the teacher pleaser kids, but it's not going to work with the Todd Whitakers. And now the Todd Whitaker is going to be able to get all the kids on my side because I'm going to walk in the next day and you know what I'm going to tell all the other students? Watch this.
Mhm.
And I'm running the class. And they do have a relationship with me because we've lost the adult in the room.
Mhm.
And but if you yell the first time, and it's great if you apologize, but you know what? It's really more important that you just don't do it again. And I'm not trying to make light of apologizing. I think that's very repairing, but that's not nearly as just think if I apologize and then I do it again. And then I apologize and then I do it again. What is that? That's worse than if I didn't apologize because you know I'm doing that on purpose. And so trust your gut. I truly believe. But what happens is if you hang around average people, they're yelling, and all of a sudden you see how confusing it is for you. Ineffective teachers in your school are probably whispering in your ear, we don't call parents here at this school. We don't call parents because they don't want you to call parents because it makes them look bad because they don't contact parents. I always say the negative group is always recruiting. They always have a matching bowling shirt just in your size. And you have to understand that. And you've got to look for highly effective people in or out of your school. That's one of the reasons used to talk about social media so much, is because you may not have, if you teach third grade, your two coworkers at third grade, neither one of them may be somebody who you can really learn from or connect with in a positive way. So find somebody who teaches a different grade or somebody who teaches third grade somewhere else that you can connect with on. Your Twitter used to be the educational hub. It's gotten damaged a little bit, but they're still education driven. Social media, Instagram, whatever that you want to emulate, even if they don't know you, because you don't know Taylor Swift either, but sometimes you listen to her albums and potentially get inspired.
Yeah. Yeah, very important last words, I think. Trust your gut. If something feels funny, rethink it, find different ways to approach it,
Yeah,
find, I don't know, others who are good at what they do and have um, some ideas on what to do and
right. And
share the
average people
knowledge.
will tell you they're exceptional. They're just wrong.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
exceptional people very seldom tell you they're exceptional.
True, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, very interesting. Todd, it was, as I said in the beginning, but I cannot stress it enough. It was an honor to talk to you today. And I'm really, really happy with our conversation. I learned a lot. I think everybody who's listening or watching also learned a lot. And yeah, I hope we stay in contact.
well, it'll be an honor for me, and you are a blessing to the students you come across, the people you know, and you're just a blessing to the education field. And I really hope you continue to share the wealth and share your knowledge and impact others because it really makes a difference and you truly have a gift. And I just appreciate you being willing to share that gift to others. And I hope that you do share your social media information to people so that they can stay connected and follow that and be able to reach out too. Because sometimes I always say teaching is the most isolated profession and you're never alone,
Mhm.
but sometimes you're lonely. And so it's nice to have people to connect with. And the same way, if I can ever help anyone who's listening, get a hold of me anytime.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.